All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday. It is the 28th of May, 2020. I would like us to practice the date first before we get started with today's lesson. So, let's take a look. Hoy es el 28 de mayo, año 2020. Like I always tell you guys, it is important to practice after I tell you guys the date or when we practice vocabulary so that you're practicing at home, so that you're repeating the words. So I would like you to try the date by yourself, and then I'll just repeat it one more time so you can hear it, okay? So go ahead and try the date one more time by yourself. Okay? It should sound something like, remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it should sound something like 28 de mayo, año 2020. All right. So our objectives for today, you guys are gonna be able to explore what it's typically like in a Spanish classroom, and you're gonna practice using verbs from chapter 3. So we're gonna start chapter 3 today. Yes, I'm sorry. Tuesday I gave you guys a little intro about what chapter 3 was all about, and not only did we do a little intro, but I also talked about some other things that need to be done before Friday. And I apologize if I'm trying to rush you. I'm really not trying to rush you. I'm just trying to get you to notice that if you do the work that you're missing by this Friday, then you don't have to be on my list for targeted students. So I'm trying to have you avoid having to go through the targeted instruction if you don't have to. All you have to do is just make up those assignments you're missing. However, if you definitely need the targeted instruction, I will be there, and I'll be there to go over the material you need. All right, now, also, your due now is I will have the graphic organizers for this chapter on the attached to this lesson. So let me show you what that looks like really quickly. The graphic organizers, as you know, is what we're going to go over today, and it has the little bubbles so you can fill in the vocabulary for this chapter. As we go through it, you're going to notice that this chapter uses, we're going to talk about a lot of objects in the first part of it. And the second part, because it has to do with things that happen after school, we're going to talk about a lot of verbs. So basically, this chapter is going to be super, super short. Not only because we only have 2 weeks, guys. So let's take a look at that schedule. We really only have 2 weeks left of instruction. So you guys really want to make sure that you're caught up in your assignments. If you look at the schedule today, we're doing the first part of the vocabulary. Tomorrow, we're going to review this part, and you have an exit ticket. Tomorrow is a really important day because tomorrow, teachers are going to be coming up with a list for targeted students. So I have emailed some of you about trying to catch up with the work because you're currently on my list. So if you get an email from me, that means that I really want you to try and catch up with the assignments by tomorrow. If you do that, then I don't have to put you on the list, okay? But I do have to make that list tomorrow, so I'm trying to give you the heads up, all right? With these exit tickets and the test, I always give you plenty of time. So if you feel like you need some assistance with the assignments or anything at all, just send me an email. I will be available. I can help you out. All right? Okay. Now that you have your once you have your graphic organizers and the vocabulary notes ready, okay, then we can then I would like you to start watching the video for the lesson, okay? Just remember that the graphic organizers, those are these. If you can't print them out, you can always just have them open and look at use the vocabulary notes, okay? Sorry, not this one. The vocabulary notes that I gave you earlier this week, the ones right over here. You can just open these up and kind of like on the side, like do your own thing. Or you can just pull these up and just practice right from here, okay? Because remember, the vocabulary all comes from here. So this is going to be your best friend for this chapter, these notes, okay? Last thing before we start the lessons, okay? We're wrapping up the trimester. It's going to wrap up really quickly. As you know, chapter 3, we're only doing vocabulary. On Friday, you have exit ticket 6. Next Tuesday, you have exit ticket 7. The following Friday, which is the last day for classes, you have your test. And that's it as far as assignments and instruction. So this chapter is going to go by really quickly. One suggestion I'm going to make to you is I've noticed, because I just noticed, and a lot of you are still using Google Translate, which honestly, like I'm not your parents, so I'm not going to tell you what to do, okay? But it's not really going to help you out next year. You're going to have me next year in class, and it's probably going to be harder for you. So my suggestion would be, if you've been using Google Translate this whole time, it would be a good idea. I'm going to keep those videos that I make up on YouTube. Go ahead and watch those videos over the summer, or at least take a look at a couple of them, because you don't want to be in rough shape for next year, and using Google Translate is the easy way out. So again, I'm not against it, but you're not really helping yourself in the long run. So just thought I'd let you know. If you haven't been using Google Translate, because I have noticed some of you putting in that extra work and just the way your sentences are made and everything, or just, I can just tell. For those of you, keep up the good work, all right? Okay. Now, I don't want to make this video too long either. I've been really trying to keep it between like 20 and 30 minutes. Hopefully this one will be a little shorter than that. So let's get started with the lesson. Please make sure you look at the schedule, and if you have any questions, let me know. All right. So have those graphic organizers ready, vocabulary notes, okay? And let's get to it. All right, so chapter 3, we're going to talk about things inside of the school. Now, this is one of those chapters that usually in school it's kind of neat, because we can actually look around and compare. We're not in the classroom, so you kind of have to close your eyes sometimes and remember what it's like to be in the classroom. All right, so en la sala de clase. So this is in the classroom. All right, you may notice here that the book, like always, like that, uses the full sentence. All right, I told you guys, for example, last chapter, when you say you want to go to the bathroom, you just have to say baño or el baño. And I noticed a lot of you are just copy pasting from the notes or whatever. So, like I said, take it as you will, but I'm trying to give you guys a real world application for these words, okay? So, when you want to say the classroom, all you have to say, instead of saying this whole thing, is just these two words, la clase. La clase is the classroom. La is the, and then clase is classroom. So la clase, this is la clase. Now here you have a profesora, all right, or la profesora, who is the teacher. Now notice how I said profesora, because she's a female. So profesora. And what do teachers usually do in the classroom? We're going to talk about a lot of verbs in this chapter. So what do teachers usually do in the classroom? Pausing point. Well, besides yelling at students and giving kids bad grades, we teach. So this word here, all right, with the little squiggly on top, let's practice saying it. Ready? Enseñar. Enseñar. It means to teach, okay? So what I would do, if you're using the graphic organizers, where'd it go? If you're using the graphic organizers, what you might want to do is write the word enseñar, and then next to it, to teach. Okay. Remember, I'm going to be giving you lots of verbs. Unfortunately, these cannot be edited unless you download them as a PDF, I guess. But if you print them out, you can write the words here, or you can just do it on the side. All right. Yes, it's more work. Yes, you already have the definitions for these words, but that's how you can practice. That's how you can study. Now, let's keep going. Enseñar, to teach, right? Okay. So when the teacher is teaching, enseñando, right? Los muchachos or los estudiantes, what do los estudiantes do when the teacher is teaching? Take a look at their faces and then look at the word. Does this seem kind of like something you might see? Prestar atención. What do you think that might mean, especially with this word, atención? Well, if you guessed paying attention, you are correct. I don't expect you to know this, but that's why I'm telling you what it is. Now, in Spanish, one difference is that when you say pay attention, right? It's almost like a command, all right? Like when a teacher says, "Oh, pay attention," it's a command, all right? Like, give me your attention, pay attention. But in Spanish, this word prestar means to lend. Like when you lend somebody something, let somebody borrow something. So when you're asking somebody to pay attention to you, in Spanish, you're not saying pay attention. You're saying lend me your attention. It sounds a little nicer, right? It's not a command. It's not like, oh, pay attention. No, it's lend me your attention. All right. That's a cultural difference. So I thought I'd point it out. And this means if you want to make it simple, pay attention. All right. And now you know that the cultural way is to really what you're saying is lend me your attention. Okay. All right. Now you see this boy right over here. Not only is he prestando atención, all right, él presta atención, but also he's looking at la profesora and he has un libro, a book out. What did kids do when they have los libros, the books out, and they're listening to the teacher, they're doing their work? Take a look at this word, see if you know any familiar words that sound like this. Ready? The word is estudiar. Estudiar. Well, this word means to study, okay? Estudiar, to study. And I know that I asked you guys to study those notes, so all I really want you to do is just look at it for a little bit, and that's how you can estudiar for this chapter 3. All right, so we have 3 words so far. Now this one's actually talking about an object, all right? These 3 are verbs: enseñar, to teach; prestar atención, to pay attention, which in reality is lend me your attention; and this one, estudiar, is to study. But this one here is actually next to an object. What do you think that object is? El pupitre. What do you think the object is? Well, it's literally right in front of the table. Now, so this word here is something I wish we were in the classroom so I can show you guys, but basically, el pupitre is the word for desk, but more specifically, remember, I'm trying to give you real world application. More specifically, this is a student's desk, okay? Now, if on the assessments, if you just say the desk, that's fine with me because the book talks about it like just a regular desk. But this is a student's desk. It's called right? Pupitre. Try to practice that one, ready? El pupitre. And that's a student's desk. Now in the book you can't really see it. I wish we were in the classroom, but I have a little pupitre next to my teacher's desk, and I have a sign on it that says El Pupitre. And the reason why that one's a student's desk is because it's like this, but it has a little it has like the little drawer underneath that students can put their items in, like the pencil case or los libros, okay? And that's a student's desk. There's another word for desk, and more specifically a teacher's desk, and or just a like an adult desk, and that one is escritorio. You don't have to know that word, all right? But I thought I'd let you know that there are 2 different ways to be more specific instead of just saying desk, okay? This is the one that you need to know. Pupitre, all right? Let's practice what we have so far. Repeat after me, ready? Enseñar. That means to teach. Prestar atención. Prestar atención. To pay attention. Estudiar. to study. El pupitre, el pupitre is a desk, more specifically, a student's desk. All right, take a look at this report card from a school, a Spanish Latin American school. Does it look like the report card that you get at school regularly? What's different about this? Take a look at it. Besides it being in Spanish, obviously. So you may have noticed that the grades are in numbers, okay? So a good note, all right, and you don't need to know these two words, but I'm just showing you. A good note would be like a 10. So if you get a 10, that's like an A plus, and then if you get a 1, that's like, I mean, technically a 1 would be like a 10 if you think about it. Because if a 10 is 100 and a 7 is a 70, 6 is 60, 5 is 50, if you got a 1 in math, oh boy. um, I have seen grades like this. It is common. In fact, in here in the United States, you will some schools do that as well, but it's just a different grading form. If you look at some of these words, and for my sixth grade, you'll be able to see this better. But basically, these are all the different classes in Spanish. All right, and you can compare. In fact, I think next page we'll be able to see some of these, and you'll be able to like compare them. All right, and you can see how similar they are from Spanish to English. Now, this sentence says, or this little paragraph, Tomás saca una nota buena en inglés. So Tomás got a good note or a good grade in English class. He got a bad note in math. Yep, he got a 1. That's pretty bad. That's like a 10, guys. That's crazy. All right, so other verbs. Here we go. From these two pictures, what do you see that this girl is doing that these two boys are not doing when the teacher is asking a question? Pausing point. So she is raising her hand. Okay. This is raise the hand. It's the literal 3 words in English. Ready? So here we go. Levantar means to raise. This is the verb here. And when we're not going to do the grammar for this chapter, but something that will easily remind you if it's a verb or not is that all the verbs in this chapter end in AR. For example, enseñar, AR, prestar, AR, estudiar, AR. And then here, levantar, to raise, okay? To raise, la is the, and then mano is hand. And if you remember, this is one of the very few examples where the gender doesn't really go in the structure of the sentence the way it's supposed to. This is one of the exceptions to the rule because la is feminine, ends in A, and then all of a sudden you have a word that ends in O. This is just an exception, okay? Raise the hand. Levantar la mano, okay? It says Julia tiene una pregunta. Julia has a question. Levanta la mano. She raises her hand. Remember, in Spanish, you can omit or take away the subject because of the ending. Remember when we did that with the verbs? I mean, with the in the grammar. So you can do that with verbs as well. El profesor contesta la pregunta. The teacher answers a question. La profesora da un examen. The teacher gives an exam. And literally, exam with an en at the end. You can also call it a prueba in Spanish, but I've heard this one more often. Los alumnos toman el examen. The students take the exam. Now, this last part of the vocabulary, these are all going to be objects, okay? We've talked a lot about verbs like levantar, enseñar, estudiar, and this last part, which has the majority of the vocabulary, is objects. Now, these are going to be easy to remember because, especially these, because these are school objects, and I have an activity for you to do tomorrow. As you can see, oh no, you don't see it yet. But when I post this, the Friday one tomorrow, before you take your or after you take your exit ticket. It's up to you. I do have a worksheet that you can use that will help you practice this. Okay. And it's a more fun one. It's not a book worksheet. But anyways, so let's continue. Let's finish off with the rest of our vocab. So here we're going to talk about articles of clothing. We've talked about the differences between Spanish or Latin American schools and schools here in the US. In Latin American culture, the majority of schools are going to have you wear uniforms. That's just the way it is. In fact, the culture is of the Spanish culture is has such a huge influence here in the United States that if you go to Lawrence or Lowell, a lot of the schools, even though they're public, they require you to wear a uniform, and that's just to keep up with that like almost like understanding that a lot of the people who live in these communities are coming from another culture, and you try to have a little mix of both. Okay, so that's why you'll see that a lot of schools in Lawrence or Lowell, um, or I'm not sure about New Hampshire, but they do wear uniforms. So let's talk. Let's see. So here you have two boys and two girls, dos muchachos y dos muchachas. The muchacho is wearing una camisa, all right, and that's what he's wearing here. This like shirt, all right, like a polo shirt. Now in Spanish, if you want to say polo shirt, you can just call it a polo, all right. We don't have like our own word for polo. We just say polo. But if you want to say shirt, like a dress shirt, like a nice shirt, you call it a camisa. Okay? Camisa. In fact, camisa, more specifically, is a dress shirt, like a long sleeve dress shirt with the collars. Okay? Now, un pantalón, this is something that I want you to change in your notes. If you, in the exit tickets and the test, I'll be more flexible, but just so you know, what you're saying here with pantalón is you want to say pants. But notice how this word doesn't is not plural. So I don't really know why, to be honest with you, why it's pant singular. It should be pantalones, es at the end. So you're talking about the pants. I don't think I've ever heard English or Spanish anybody call it a pant. In Spanish, you can say pantalón, but when you're talking about the object, not on the person. It's like it's yeah. Sorry, I don't want to confuse you, but basically, to keep things simple, pantalón, it's like you're saying pant, and then pantalones with the es at the end, it's like you're saying pants the regular way. Now the girl's wearing two articles of clothing. You can see she's wearing like a sweater vest. All right, but I actually so I found out that the word blusa or blouse in English is actually the shirt. Okay, I thought it was a sweater vest, but it's actually the shirt. It's like it's a girl's shirt, a blouse. Okay. And the word for skirt in Spanish is falda. Falda. So repeat after me. Ready? Camisa, pantalones, blusa, falda. And those are the articles of clothing for boys and girls. All right. Los alumnos llevan uniforme a la escuela. The students carry with them a uniform to the school or bring with them. Los muchachos llevan un pantalón y una camisa. The boys and girls bring with them pants and a shirt. Las muchachas, the girls, llevan una falda y una blusa. They bring with them a falda, which is a skirt, and a blusa, which is a blouse. Last part, guys. Carlos lleva una mochila. Mochila is the word for backpack. All right, so there you go. Mochila, backpack. ¿Quién? ¿Qué lleva en la mochila? What does he have in his backpack? All right, so the word for backpack, mochila. Now, this specific way to say backpack is actually how people from Central America say backpack. Okay? The majority of Spanish speaking countries call it a mochila. In Colombia, we don't call it a mochila. We call it a maleta, which is weird because that's the word for suitcase. Go figure. But it's again one of those cultural differences. Mochila is what I want you guys to learn because the majority of Spanish speaking cultures here in the United States, around you specifically, are students from Central America and the Caribbean, and they use the word mochila. When I worked in Lawrence, I had to learn to say mochila because I would say, hey, go get your maleta. And they would look at me like, I'm not going on a trip, Mr. Perez. I'm not going on vacation. All right. Un libro, a book. Okay. So let's practice some of these. Ready? Libro. Say libro. That's book. Say mochila. That's backpack. Let's start on this side because they're a little easier. Ready? This one you have to roll your R a little bit. If you can't do it, no worries. Ready? This is cuaderno. Cuaderno. That's notebook, okay? Cuaderno. This one's easy. Lápiz. Now notice the little accent over the A. So it's not lápiz, it's lápiz. Nice and quick. Emphasis on the A. Lápiz. That's pencil, okay? This one, fun to say. Calculadora. And what do you think that one might be? The calculator, okay? Practice this one. Ready? Calculadora. With Dora the Explorer at the end. Calculadora. Good. Calculadora. Lápiz. Cuaderno. Mochila. Libro. Now here, don't worry about all this whole thing. Okay? Because more specifically, this is talking about a sheet of paper. Sheet of paper. But if you just want to call it paper, this is the word. Papel. Okay, ready? Hoja de papel. Sheet of paper. And then papel is the word for paper. The last one, this one is a little tricky to say. It's the word for pen. Bolígrafo. Bolígrafo. And that's the word for pen. These are the school materials. Remember in Spanish, the adjective comes after the noun. So, I'm sorry, before the noun. So you have instead of saying the school materials, you're saying the materials of school. All right. Los materiales escolares. And last but not least, before we end the lesson, I'm just going to read this little thing. The most common terms for ballpoint pen are el bolígrafo and el lapicero. So the one I want you to know is bolígrafo. Okay. In some countries, you'll hear la pluma, but la pluma is more frequently a fountain pen. Pluma means feather. So if we're talking about a pen, do you guys remember those pens with the feather on it from like history class? From like when the Constitution was written? That in English is called a plume, and in Spanish, la pluma. You don't need to know that, okay? We don't even use those anymore. Bolígrafo, or if you want to get fancy, lapicero, but bolígrafo, okay? Ask Spanish speakers in your class what word they use for pen. Yes, when we get back in the class, there's a lot of Spanish speakers. And even if they're not Spanish speakers, there's a lot of you guys that know other languages that are pretty close to Spanish. And I'm talking about my Portuguese friends. You guys can make some connections. And if you ask each other what word you use, you might make more connections than you would think. Okay. So when we get back in the class, hopefully by the fall, that would be nice, right? I'm sure you guys have had enough of the remote teaching. When we get back in the class, like definitely ask your friends. It's really interesting to learn what words they use and stuff. Okay, so that is all for today's lesson. Please, guys, you only have, if you're missing a lot of assignments, if you got an email from me, please make sure that you try to get this done by tomorrow so I don't have to put you on the list. For the rest of you, even if you didn't get an email from me, check PowerSchool. We still have 3 exit tickets left. So if you're missing 1 or 2 assignments, just do them. So that way you don't have to worry about these 3 as much. Okay, I'm not saying don't do them. I'm saying so you don't have to worry about them as much. I still expect everybody to take these 3 assessments. Okay? So, again, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you're enjoying the videos. And if you have any questions, let me know. All right, guys, have a great day.